Hello everybody, my name is Mike Thompson and this is the Private Pilot Ground School at the beautiful Epic Flight Academy. Now remember, when you study this material, don't just watch these videos. These videos are one of 3 parts. You must also be studying the online course, and thirdly, review this content with your flight instructor. Now, this is part of a series of videos on airspace. We divide airspace up into controlled, uncontrolled, and special use. We had previously talked about Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie airspace. In this short video, let's take a look at Delta, Echo, and Golf. Now, Delta airspace has a dimension of 4 nautical mile radius and goes from the surface up to 2,500 feet and is depicted on your sectional chart by a blue dash line on the surface. And you can sort of visualize here, it looks sort of a bluish purple, 3-dimensional here. That's Delta airspace. Delta airspace exists at smaller airports that are tower controlled. Now, sometimes these towers have limited hours of operation. They might run from, 8 in the morning till 10 at night and nobody's there in the evening. When the tower shuts down, that Delta airspace is going to revert into either Echo or Golf airspace, which we'll talk about in just a minute. And how do I know that? I know that by looking into the chart supplement. So looking back at our diagram, you see this class D or Delta airspace here depicted in blue, but you also see this magenta kind of shape around it. What's that for? That is some Echo airspace that is controllable to add to the safety of instrument approaches into that Delta airspace airport. Okay, now the other thing you might wonder about or guess is, hey, I've seen some Delta airspace with my flight instructor and it didn't go to 2,500 feet. Or, maybe it was slightly less than 4 nautical miles. Again, that airspace may be adjusted or tweaked by the FAA. Oftentimes, if an airport is underneath the shelf of overlying airspace, this is the case at New Smyrna, we are under the shelf of an overlying Charlie airspace. That Delta ends where the Charlie begins. So that 4 nautical mile and 2,500 feet, that can be variable, just like Charlie and Bravo airspace can be variable depending upon need. Requirements to get into Delta airspace. You do not need a private pilot's license. You can fly in and out of Delta as a student pilot. You need 2-way radio communication. And there is a 200-knot speed limit within 4 nautical miles of the airport, below 2,500 feet. The weather minimums in Delta airspace are 3152. That means 3 statute miles of visibility, 1,000 feet above any clouds, 500 below any clouds, and 2,000 feet horizontally from any clouds. Now, the exceptions here are special VFR. You can talk to your flight instructor about that and study it more as we get into instrument flying. That is Delta airspace. So if you take a look at our big airspace chart from your Jeppesen handbook, and we can see Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta. Well, where is Echo airspace? And the memory aid for Echo airspace is everything else. So if it's not Charlie, if it's not Delta, if it's not Alpha or Bravo, if it's left over from that, and you can see that on this chart here, sort of depicted in blue. It's kind of like everything else in blue, that's Echo Airspace. Now, is Echo Airspace controlled or uncontrolled? That's a good question. It is technically controlled airspace. Now, that does not mean that you must be on a flight plan or talking to ATC to fly in Echo Airspace. When I work with my students, I tell them to think of it as controllable. So, ATC may control traffic within Echo Airspace, but I do not have to be under control to fly in Echo Airspace. Echo Airspace runs from the surface or 700 or 1,200 feet up to any overlying airspace. Now, the floor of Echo Airspace can sometimes be a little bit confusing. You're going to work with your flight instructor to see what we call feathered magenta edges on your sectional chart. And that is where Echo Airspace starts at 700 feet. Everywhere else, Echo Airspace usually starts at 1,200 feet. And if it starts at some other altitude, you're going to see what we call the blue zipper line. It's kind of a line made of connecting blue rectangles. It looks kind of like a zipper. Your flight instructor will show you that. And that blue zipper line will define the floor of Echo Airspace. It'll give you an actual number and tell you the floor of Echo Airspace. So that's Echo Airspace. Now, looking back at our diagram from your Jeppesen chart, you see Alpha Airspace above everything. Bravo Airspace is for the big aircraft. Charlie Airspace, that means I need to communicate. Then we see Delta Airspace. Echo Airspace is everywhere else. Notice along the bottom of your diagram, it shows up in pink. It's below Echo Airspace, and it is outside of the dimensions of Delta or Charlie or Bravo. What's that? That is uncontrolled or Class G or Gulf airspace. That airspace is uncontrolled. The dimensions of Gulf airspace are technically surface to 14,500 feet, unless that Gulf airspace ends at some overlying airspace. Now, for large parts of the country, it ends at overlying Echo airspace that we just talked about, 700 feet with the magenta feathered edge, or typically 1,200 feet. The requirements in Gulf airspace. If this Gulf airspace is above 10,000 feet, you have to have a Mode C transponder with altitude reporting and ADS-B in or out. And below 10,000 feet, we're limited to 250 knots. So where might Class Gulf airspace be that high? I fly in Florida. I'm not really conceptualizing that. Well, take a look at this diagram. If we get out west and we see the mountains out here, your airport or the surface of the earth might be much higher. And so Gulf airspace would be determined at 14,005, and you could be on the surface up close to 10,000 feet and start to run into some of those requirements and limitations. Now, to fly in Gulf airspace, because it is uncontrolled, there is no requirement to communicate with ATC, and there is no requirement to file a flight plan. It is uncontrolled airspace. So that kind of gives us an overview of Delta, Echo, and Golf. Here's a quick review question. What is the normal radius for Delta airspace? Well, folks, that's a wrap for today. We'll talk to you on the next video.